Question 1011. How do you think the world would be different if religions had not moved beyond basic superstition?
You end up with everybody just being spiritual.
Yeah.
You think?
What do you mean moves beyond it, though?
I think what he's saying is we'd never had organised religion. Is that what you mean by this, Dave?
Basically, it's before that, because we had ritualised burial before that. We had stuff before organised religion.
Yeah. Okay.
But the point at which you have your basic superstition where you think something affects something, but it doesn't.
But that's how religion started, period,
Yes,
though. There was no
exactly.
moving.
Beyond it is how religion started. Yeah?
Okay.
Jeff, have you got lucky socks that you wear?
No.
What do you wear when Southampton are playing to make sure they win?
Nothing, because
Nothing at all?
any fucking superstition I could try is not going to affect their performance. So, we did effectively send our local rivals down yesterday, but hey ho.
We have a superstition about the Green Bay Packers, but it's not a real superstition. It's an excuse to get pizza every time they play.
What superstition is that?
That if we eat pizza when the Green Bay Packers play, they'll win.
Oh.
Gary says less billionaire evangelism. Santi says we'd be way more advanced. Loyal asks, what is basic superstition? Basic superstition is the idea that something you are doing is having an impact on the world, even though there is no connection. So in Neolithic society, it would be something different. But here, an example in reality is people that wear underwear or socks because they think it makes their sports team win.
I don't know, because there is sort of like, I don't know how things would have progressed, because there's there's some schools of thought that religion has some sort of has played some sort of evolutionary advantage to us as well.
But it has an evolutionary advantage.
Yeah.
Whether or not it was required is a different matter.
Yeah.
It has served an evolutionary purpose in that it has allowed cohesion.
And would it have served that same purpose?
I think you could have had cohesion other ways. I don't know. At the end of the day, this is what we're exploring with this question. We might have ended up with a lot smaller, more warring tribes. Ilya says, without the superstition, would religion even exist? I don't think it would. But I can't dismiss the impact of conmen. I still think you could create a religion without superstition. Maybe? Would it be as easy?
How could you create a religion without superstition?
Well,
what would be the point?
I don't know. You see, this is the point. Gary says science has been adopted more broadly. Sirif says, think society as a whole would be more accepting of individuals. Maybe, maybe not. Again, we might have gone down the route of similarity based on appearance.
Because I don't know. See, I don't necessarily know that religion had did not really, in my opinion, have a massive role in modern racism. I'm not going to say it played no role, but I don't think it was something that was key to that. So I don't think, I think ideas and sort of social constructs are not necessarily handed down from like religion or superstitions or anything. So
no, the problem is I think.
Well, back 400 or 500 years ago, anybody who was not the Christian religion, at least according to Christians, were not as intelligent, we're not as sophisticated, we're not as advanced. So therefore,
But again, that didn't count.
No, that's still.
The problem is that everywhere practiced a different sort of Christianity. But when there was that level of communication, I mean, you should see in the UK, yeah, half our churches have got Celtic crosses in them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they have bugger all to do with Christianity. They're from before. They've just been adopted by local Christiantianity as a symbol.
Well, religion has always done that. Has always adopted what was there before.
All successful religions have done that. I should say. I mean, it's one of the reasons something like Christianity has been successful. It's because it's appropriated. It's because it's appropriated things from previous religions, and I think even Islam to some extent has done that. Maybe not on the same kind of level that Christianity has done it, but
yes.
Well, just look at the spires and domes of was it Spain and Catalonia? Oh wait, that's not a country. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Do not tell the fucking Catalans that.
I know.
Do not tell the Catalans that.
I think they should be independent myself.
Me too.
I think they've got as much claim to independence as Portugal does. Chad says, I think fear is an early motivator for cooperation. I would say that it was a necessary step in coming together in the early river valleys of the world. And agreed. TP Seeker says, the world would be a better place. Then again, if religions were never asked about, would that make a difference either? Sammy, I guess we would remain at the stage as tribes have remained simplistic and relatively unchanged for thousands of years. I still think we'd have social evolution. Loyal says, I think no evolution at all. We would have died out because I believe religion comes from watching advanced humans land on Earth when we were more primitive and they taught us stuff, so I don't know.
Somebody's watched Battlestar Galactica.
Rainbug says, do you think religion was needed to unite tribes into empires? I don't think so. I would have to study more of the Greek stuff. Because I don't think they shared religions when they came together. Rome
was very, very successful without necessarily... it didn't necessarily force conquered peoples to convert. Now, what they would do is somehow incorporate local deities into their own pantheon in some way or whatever. Like, for example, I mean, obviously there's the famous temple in the city of Bath, isn't it? The Roman Baths. That's just a temple of Cirrus Minerva. Cirrus is a Celtic deity, Minerva being a Roman deity, and they sort of link the two in a way. So there is that element of that, but there was no. I mean, in a weird way, I think it was almost a blueprint for what Christianity would later do when Christianity became the official religion of Rome. So,
but Gary says, no theologicals. Never again says, I know I'm not stoned enough to discuss it anyway, and never will be stoned enough to discuss it. Sammy says, I'm usually too stoned. Loyal says, aren't all religions based... What?
Can I talk to the whole, putting the tribes together thing?
Yeah, go on.
I mean, because while, yes, there tended to be more likely a scenario where if the tribes were of, similar religions or whatever they would put together, it was well more about, mutual necessity and what they saw in each other's regions that they needed or each other's power structures that they needed. The religion thing played a part, but it was not the sole reason, and it would have still happened without religion.
I think Ireland is proof of that. Yeah, Ireland was so tribalistic even after the country was almost all Catholic.
Yeah. That one too.
Native Americans were extremely tribalistic and had wars.
And their religions were pretty similar. I mean, I wouldn't say exactly the same, but they had
they weren't
many of the same similar beliefs. So.
Well, I think a lot of the things where you look at certain certain things like mythologies and so on, the way they've kind of travelled. I mean that I mean there's there's definite similarities in you can find in sort of like Eastern mythology, like say India or something, that you can find in ancient Western mythology. Like I mean, there's a story I forget the name of it. There's a very similar story to Homer's Odyssey in Hindu mythology. And obviously, I don't need to tell Math Pig this, Gilgamesh, you know.
But isn't it sort of believed that Homer might have stolen at least big chunks of the Odyssey from that?
Well, it's possible that
Almost certainly likely, to be honest.
It's possible. Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily say directly plagiarized from that thing, but you had those oral traditions or whatever. And it kind of becomes a bit like Chinese whispers and so on after that, you know. So when it sort of spreads from one thing to another, it gets changed over time.
But yeah, I've got some interesting things here. Sammy says, so why have tribes not experienced the social evolution of which you speak? They have. They go slower when they're not interacting with other tribes. The Mongols... Santi says, the Mongols took over many kingdoms and their religions were a background. They had an insane social evolution when they took over the Silk Road. I think communication is what drove an awful lot of social evolution. Chad says, religion is a powerful story. The only thing that binds people are the stories we share with others. The advent of writing has hijacked our survival instincts. Religion is a story shared across borders. See, I am fascinated to know what's going to happen now. We've got the internet. We had 10 years of the internet where it was true knowledge. It was basically true stuff being added to it, apart from people trolling. And then we've had the last 10 years where the religious organisations have been pumping in massive amounts of bullshit at a rate at which true stuff can't compete.
It kind of has the same... You know? It's the same ideas with what's happening with Fox right now. They actually did a study and found that Hannity and Ingram actually increased virus cases in America because people were listening, you know, to Fox and doing what they said and spread it more. So I think in terms of, you know, the internet and the misinformation, there's still a moment right now where we're balanced and more people are finding truth than they are finding the lies. But when more people are finding the lies and if there's balance switches,
the problem is,
I think the internet is just a giant technological oral tradition. I don't see it any different than storytelling. All the written part of the internet is generally ignored by the masses. And that's where the actual wisdom and knowledge exists.
The problem is, it seems to be that the way that search and all the social media sites want to return is the latest stuff. So if you've got a religion with fixed answers to things, and you just release the same stuff every other week, that comes up higher.
You're gonna tell me that there were the same amount of same percentage of anti-vaxxers in the 1980s that there are now? No, they're not. No, because of the way that information has spread, it's become more prevalent. That's why it's,
and also on that particular case of what thing anti-vax didn't really become a thing until like the late 90s or early 2000s when Andrew Wakefield obviously published, which is really the genesis. I'm not saying that there probably were sort of some anti-vaxxers before, but it was never really a thing. It was when
the same can be said for anything that's been around, you know, at the same time.
Yeah, the anti-vaxxers definitely existed in the 60s and 70s. I can remember them being talked about by the adults. They weren't called anti-vaxxers, but those people who don't believe in immunizations and stuff. All that's happened is the virulence and quantity of them. But they certainly
I think and you're right. There's always been people against it. I think in terms of the anti-vax thing that we know today, it's because they say things like, you know, it causes autism or the mercury and it's going to kill you or whatever bullshit that is.
See, that's interestingly enough, though, the autism one is not one I actually hear a lot from anti-vaxxers now.
Because they know it's fucking debunked completely to death. And they can't
most
use
of,
an argument
most of them
anymore.
know all of their fucking arguments are debunked, but
They can still easily go to someone off the street and say, and give them a list and say, look, there's mercury on it. And the normal person off the street isn't going to realize that specific type of mercury is not going to be harmful to you. They don't know that it's chemically different than the kind that, poisoned the Mad Hatter.
Yeah, they hear that term, mercury. It's like
people know mercury is poisonous.
It's like buzzword. It's like buzzwords. Like nuclear is. People hear that it's a buzzword.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's my position, is that oral traditions do not give any space for nuance. That you only find the nuance in the written, educational, intellectual discussions, not in oral traditions.
Maybe.
This is quite a serious discussion for critical questions, really. I'm enjoying it. Don't get me wrong.
It's over in a minute. I've got to. Otherwise, I'm only going to end up with 2 questions. Santi
Not
says,
my fault.
I haven't even asked Math Pick and Granny yet. The Roman had an insane number of religious beliefs that stood apart from their progress. TP Seeker says, how many religions are in India, and India seems to be a happy place with acceptance of the person is more important than acceptance of religions. And I'm not sure you've seen India recently.
I'm going to say, are you fucking kidding?
Chad says, not to brag, but I'm pretty sure I'm the second coming.
Not with a name like Chad, you're not.
Don't know a name like Chad. Jesus was common then. I think the new Jesus would be called something like Chad or Karen.
Not Karen.
It would not be a cat.
Ricardo says...
Can you imagine that, though? It turns out that Jesus was real and he came back as Karen.
Yeah.
That would absolutely be the end of the world. So.
I have this theory that, if aliens ever come to Earth or something, they're Karens. The first thing they're going to be say is, "Take me to your manager."
Loyal says, I wonder if we would just kind of worship nature more. I think there might be more elements.
Probably.
Of that. More naturalistic things, weather and the sun.
Well, obviously, a lot of the pre-Abrahamic religions did have that kind of element to them anyway, and I think there's been, certainly with the sort of modern revival of paganism, with Gerard Gardner and the whole Wicca thing. That's always been there's been a bit of a revival with that in the 20th century. So,
yes, Ricardo says, I don't know what, but the leaders of ancient something would need to find a common thread to unite empires. World would only be substantially different if somehow those threads would be weaker, more fluid. I'm not convinced. Why does it have on packaging, it's your own risk taking it? Medicine? This is the third. Apparently I can't count. Santi says, Jesus came back as Richard Madsen. We just wouldn't accept it.
Santi. No.
Sammy says, I'm lucky if I can go a second coming these days. Seraphim says, Richard is Jesus now.
No.
There are no white people in the Bible.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I think there probably are. I mean, I don't think fucking Jesus or any of them are.
Yeah, Jesus definitely wasn't.
We don't know the race of lots of them. But the common race would have been vaguely Middle Eastern brown? No idea. Does that have a colour? Say again?
I said a number of the Greeks may have been white.
Yeah. I mean, from the genetics, we know that 10,000 years ago, we were probably all still black within Europe.
Ooh. Did you see the TikTok video that Bill Nye did about why we all have different color skin? That was really cool.
No.
I haven't seen that yet, but
And yes, it's
He took
super
it right
weird
down
that Bill Nye is on TikTok. I'm not gonna lie.
Right down to the basics of
cool.
ultraviolet and vitamin D production, melanin production.
Okay, Dave, it's your turn. Just answer the fucking question and move
Well,
on.
no, we've got to do Granny.
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry, Granny.
That's okay.
We don't notice sometimes because you're just sitting there, knitting away. Like we're not even here. It's fine.
I'm just waiting for my turn. I think the world would be extremely different. I think that we would be much more scientific. I think we would be much more in tune with listening to experts in fields, and I think religion would be just a very small part of life.
I think if you had less to dismiss, with superstitions, you can dismiss a superstition when something better comes along. Religion doesn't offer you that opportunity; it fights. Math Pig.
I answered first, Dave.
What did you
David.
say?
I said everybody would end up all just being spiritual and wishy-washy like that, and then the conversation progressed.
Very good.
Dave, your answer.
I'm inclined to agree with what Granny said. I mean, as much as I agree with lots of what's been said overall, I think if we did not have something turn into something more organised, that it would be less to dismiss. I genuinely think we would have better, more quick scientific development.
I got to say, I'm not entirely convinced by that, but I think this could be a conversation for another time, actually.
Yes.
I think that if religion didn't exist, we would be 1,000 years more advanced than we are now.
Yeah.
I think if Christianity didn't exist, we would be.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Islam
I'll
is.
qualify to that, sure.
I think Islam is just as big a problem.
Yes. But Islam didn't come about till later. But
True.
The problem is the Roman Empire, right? I don't know much about before that, but the Roman Empire was that close to the Industrial Revolution.
And it wasn't it the Roman Empire that destroyed the libraries of Alexandria?
Yes.
It burned
That
down.
right there finished it off.
We blame them.
But then again, a lot of stuff. Then again, a lot of stuff from the classical world, was actually saved by Islamic scholars in Baghdad. A lot of stuff that would have been otherwise lost to us.
Yes.
Have you ever read How the Irish Saved Civilization?
That never happened. Was it out with alcohol?
No, it's really a good book. It's about how the Irish monks saved a lot of what was destroyed in the libraries. Yeah.
Haven't read the book. Have seen a documentary about it.
Ah.
If you enjoyed that, please hit the thumbs up button. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down. If you think you've got a better answer or just want to tell us how wrong we are, leave a comment down below. Subscribe down here for new questions every day and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on our live shows. If you click over here, you'll see our latest upload. Over here, for what YouTube thinks you'll love the most. And finally, for a complete playlist of all our currently released questions, click here.